Welcome to this video on a month of mindfulness, a video series of short monotangles, all done in black and white, with the emphasis on the here and now with a pen, using the Zentangle method. Today's tangle is a grid-based tangle, and it's called Warble. A grid-based tangle is often one of those that suits people who love a straight line. That straight grid base is a foundation to sit the tangle upon. Sometimes having a firm base to sit on is a good start to be able to gain some focus. So when you draw here today, to gain a little focus and flow, make sure that you are seated comfortably, or as comfortably as you can for where you are. But it's so that you can really focus on the small task of a wee tangle. So just before we move to the pen, and because not all your seating or timing can be perfect, just have a little shiggle, maybe check that you're anchored onto your chair or your stool or your beanbag, or perhaps you're standing, and that your feet are pressed firmly to the floor. Roll your shoulders back a couple of times, really ease that through, and then we'll pick up our pen. If everything is not perfect with your seating or the timing, let us allow our grid not to be perfect either. We're just going to change the perspective a little bit. So what I want to do is on two sides of my tile, just pop a couple of dots. And above one dot, I'm just going to pop another dot. And above one dot, I'm just going to go below a dot. On the other side, I'm going to do a dot that just goes above, but much further than this one, and one that goes below, again much further away than these two. So these are the basis of how we're going to build our grid. So the first line that I want to do is the one that goes straight across. I'm going to join that middle dot to that middle dot. And then I want to join my top dot to my bottom dot, going through the middle dot as I go. And I'm going to do that to both sides of my tile. And now I want to draw this dot to this dot. If you're wanting to draw a straight line, the easiest way is to pop your pen down where you are, look at where you're wanting to go, keep your eye on where you want to go, and head your pen across. Pop your pen down, look where you want to go, keep looking at where you're wanting to go, and pull your pen across. So we don't have a grid yet, we've just got two expanding rectangles. So I'm just going to move here to build my grids. This one here is a little bit narrower. Then I'm going to go a little bit bigger, and then finally pop one in that gets bigger still. So as my squares expand, they expand both up the way and down the way and across the way. And this is how I'm going to draw my Warble. The reason why I particularly like Warble is because it just involves a little bit of drama. It's as if we're starting to do a bales. So I'm going to take my pen, start at the indices of the junction of my square, and I'm just going to go out and come back into the next junction. And I'm going to do that on the left hand side of all my vertical lines. Then I'll rotate my tile, and I'm going to do the same thing again. This time the pen comes out and heads back in on this side and on this side. And so each grid square has two bale shapes on connecting sides. Each grid square, two bale shapes. Now I want to add a little bit of drama, but I just want you to include a little bit of sparkle. Don't get fixated on filling the whole of the space. Perhaps add a little bit of sparkle inside each of these shapes. by adding a bit of sparkle, of course, all I mean is just leaving a little bit white inside. If you're using a different coloured paper, you might want to add, with a white pen, the white inside. Just creates a little bit of sparkle in our drama areas. And as I get bigger on these elements, I might leave my sparkle gap a little bigger each time. Then I'll rotate my tile and do the same thing with the elements going in the other direction. I tend to find that rotating the tile makes it much easier to do the same repetitive stroke in each of these elements. Perhaps you don't leave sparkle, perhaps you fill the whole thing with solid drama. And then the last part of this is to add curves to the warble. And this just means I'm going to use the curves that already exist and give myself a little aura line on them. And then I'm going to repeat the same thing again until I fill up my little grid square. The reason why I like doing warble and find that I can gain quite focus is because each of my lines, when I'm doing the little warble bit, can just disappear. The reason why I like to do warble is because it's very gentle on the start and stop of those warble lines. I take each grid square as a single element and repeat again and again and again, filling up each square. And you may find as you've got a bigger grid square at this end that you get more lines in. If you want, you can also include a little bit of sparkle, perhaps in one of two of those warble elements, perhaps that match where the sparkle is if you put some in. I always think if you're trying to squash a line in, don't. Just take your time and allow each line to have its space. Gently fill each section. You know where it's going to go. You know how much space you've got. And to finish this tangle off with a little bit of shading, I'm just going to pop a little bit of shading, just following the line where the warble curves change direction. Just with my pencil, finding those changes of angle and throwing a little bit of graphite in to this one side. Then I'll use my pencil to gently pull the graphite out further into that side. Gently, gently with your graphite. Gently, gently with your blending tool. Gently, gently on yourself. And there we have a lovely little warble. If you want, another little tiny trick is to just go back in with your pencil on the lines that you did and really define that graphite change of space. Sometimes when you have pulled out the graphite, it can be nice just to define it back in if you like. And then stop and appreciate which way up perhaps your warble will go. Although I mainly drew it the other way, I actually quite like this way. And so I'll gently add my chop just here. Never forget that a change in perspective can be a different way to look at something. So even though you may be sitting in a railway carriage or on the bus or in your little nook at home or perhaps at your work desk, just sitting comfortably or not comfortably, sometimes just a small change in perspective is all you need to warble away. So here was Warble completely traditional, in lovely straight lines. And here was Warble, chairs gone, a little haywire, and a bit of wibbly-wobbly as we went. Whichever way you've chosen to warble and sit, I hope that you've managed to get a little bit of focus today.